Welcome to another episode of Life and Whiskey. As always, I'm Jordan, and today we kind of got a little special treat. My wife got me this little variety pack of Glenlivet Scotch to try. We're going to do a little bit of discussion here. So, looking at my notes, Glenlivet, we got several different varieties in here. We have the Glenlivet 14 single Scotch whiskey. We have the Glenlivet 12-year single Scotch or single malt. We have the Glenlivet Founders Reserve, established 1828 single malt, and then we have the Glenlivet Caribbean Reserve single malt. So we got three different single malts. Four different single malts that we're going to explore on this video, and we're going to compare them one to the other. So as we go through it, I'll be reading off of the packaging what it says the notes are, and then I'll give you my impressions on it. So we'll kind of compare these head to head, and then in subsequent videos, I'm going to take and individually review these one at a time. So as I said in the Scotland videos, if you look at where the Glenlivet distillery is, it's a Speyside. It's in the Speyside region, so it's a Speyside Scotch on the northeast side of Scotland. And yeah, that's probably enough talking about it. Let's see what it has to offer here. So it's kind of nice to get these little variety packs. Yeah, they're smaller bottles and stuff, but it's a great way to explore different whiskeys, different categories of whiskeys and stuff without spending a ton of money, especially Scotch and some high-end bourbons and stuff like that. Actually, any high-end whiskey, doesn't matter what category it is. If you buy some of the more desirable things or whatever, you can spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars on a bottle, and the price tag is not going to guarantee that you like it. Even if you're a whiskey fan, there's no guarantee that your palate is going to really line up with the price tag. So finding these smaller sample packages are awesome when it comes to just getting a good opportunity to try stuff. That's also like you see in a lot of my videos, I'm starting to buy the 375 milliliter bottles or these 1 ounce shooter bottles just because, I'm paying for all this whiskey myself. And so to stretch my budget but still get a large variety, I'm starting to look in different avenues for an opportunity to try this stuff. So with that, these four scotches are the lowest tier scotch coming out of the Glenlivet distillery. They're the most accessible, widely distributed, cheapest in price. I do not have a price on them, and I did not look them up yet. When I do the individual bottle reviews, I will look up the $7.50 price for them, but they'll be coming from an online source. So that's not going to guarantee that that's what you can find them for in your area. But this is the lower tier, so I would imagine you're somewhere in that $40 to $70 range for a bottle. The higher tier stuff, you might be in the several $100 bottle area price range. So just keep that in mind. So let's start with the Glenlivet 14. So it's aged 14 years. It's a single malt scotch. So as we talked about in the scotch video, single malt means that it is 100% malted barley. And the barley can come from different regions, which will impart its own flavor on it. Whiskey Tribe did a great video on terroir, which basically is the idea that the land that the grain's coming from is imparting its own flavor into the food, or in this case, scotch. And there is something to be said that different areas, different regions, even farm to farm, different soil types can impart different flavors, even if it's the exact same species of grain being grown. So there is some variety to be had there, something to make note of. But single malt, so 100% malted barley in a pot still from a single distillery, in this case, Glenlivet. Okay, so I'm just gonna pour a little bit in there, not going hog wild on these. And yeah, so this is a 14-year-old single malt Scotch, Bayside region. Now in the glass, it's super light and fruity. I smell. I think the best smell that I would say I get out of it is pear, like really sweet pear, almost overripe pear. I get a little, just a touch of malt on the back end of it. No oak really. Just some sweet honey smells. According to this, says selectively finished in high quality cognac casks for a rich and intense flavor. Sweet and fruity, rich with ripe poached pears. There you go. And spicy notes. Okay, so I will be honest with you. I have not read any of the backs of these. I'm going to do what I just did. I'm going to nose it, taste it, and then read through it. And, you know, I didn't taste this one first, but I don't want to be biased towards what they tell you because the power of suggestion is a real thing. If somebody tells you something or you read something about it, your brain will click into that mode where it will find that stuff. So I want to go into these blind and then, you know, let them speak for themselves. So unfortunately, I can't do that with the taste of this, but, you know, we'll see. The nose definitely presented with that. Okay, it has a dryness that starts with the very onset of the sip. It progresses all the way through the entire flavor profile. It's a dry, like a dry white wine. So that kind of carries through where it kind of dries out your tongue a bit, but there is a sweet note that picks up, a sweet light fruit note that picks up at the very beginning, totally a pear fruit note mixed with just a touch of honey. And if you take that flavor profile, it starts off with dryness hitting and then it kind of builds into that sweeter note. The pear note, they said poached pears. I would say that's exactly right. Almost like a pear sauce, like pear applesauce kind of, without the apple, just pear. And then it drops off into the finish, and the finish is where that pear really gets intense. On the nose, the malt really picks up after a sip. So on the second nosing, it's all malt in the glass with just real light fruit in the background. Yep, dry, builds, sweet, pear. The finish is actually dry, hint of oak at the very, very end. No real spice that I'm getting out of it. There's a little bit of pepper if you want to call it that, but it's mostly non-existent. You know, that's probably coming from like a dry oak tannin that's coming through and presenting as a pepper. Really good. I like it. It doesn't not as complex as what I would want. Um, it's just really light in body and mouthfeel and everything. It's more of a dry wine kind of an experience. A dry white wine. Um, not bad. All right, gonna rinse. All right, so there we go. That was Glenlivet 14. Okay, there's the first one. Next, Glenlivet 12. This one's aged 12 years. See what we get on this. Theoretically, these two are probably pretty close to the same. This one's a double oak, it says. What does it say about this guy? This is cognac, cask finish. This is double oaked. Does it say what kind of oak? European oak and American oak cask. So double oaked, once in a European, so probably French oak, and then American white oak cask. Okay, let's see what we get out of this. I want to warm them up a little bit. They've been sitting down here in the basement. It's only about 60 degrees down here, so warm them up a little bit, see what we get out of it. Ooh, okay, so very different on the nose. It's fruity again, but it's a sweet fruit, like a sweet plum, not those dark purple plums, but like here in Wyoming and throughout a lot of the plains region, there's wild plums out on the prairie that grow in a lot of the draws and stuff, and they're like a yellowy, orangey hint of red in there. It's almost like a peach look to it, but it's but it's a lot smaller. It has kind of that smell, or I would say a peach, but that's gonna throw you off from what I mean. It's definitely more towards that plum smell, but just a light fruit, sweet smelling, very sweet honey. A little bit of that malt on the back end once again. I can definitely see how these two are related. And actually, if you take this and go with a monkey shoulder, you'll find a lot of the same notes that I'm getting out of this one as I would out of a monkey shoulder. Very nice. It's setting itself up to be very enjoyable, so hopefully it's pretty sweet. Okay, goes completely opposite of where the nose takes you. So the nose leads you to think that it's going to be a sweet, fruity adventure. On the taste, it's very dry, almost no sweetness whatsoever. Um, there's dry fruit notes. So if you've ever had a dry fruit wine of some sort where you can taste the flavor of the fruit, but it kind of does a little brain trick to you because your brain goes, "Oh, I know that flavor because it's sweet." But a dry wine doesn't have that sweetness to it, so you get the fruit flavor without the sweetness, or like a carbonated water that doesn't have any sugar or sweeteners in it, just fruit flavored carbonated water. It presents like that. The no sweet whatsoever, even though the nose leads you to think it's going to be. Dry start, goes into a fruit. Now that time I got just the slightest sliver of sweet, like a sweet honey in there. I can't put my finger on a fruit, but it's definitely light fruits. Pear, that light plum, apricot, something in that category. And then it finishes with a dry oakness to it. But a really, really light oak. Like a white oak on there. Interesting. Knocked them both down. All right, let's see what the bottle says here. According to them, it says tropical fruits. If I had a better reference point for a tropical fruit, I might agree with that. Silky vanilla sweetness. I'm going to disagree with that completely. And subtle scented floral notes. Okay, I can agree with the floral notes for sure. But those are pretty subtle for sure. The tropical fruit, like in my mind, I'm thinking papaya, mango. Ooh, mango I could maybe see in there. Banana, something like that. And I'm not getting any of that in there. But, you know, if you kind of put your brain to it, you might get like a fruity. Again, it's like a fruity drink from the islands or tropic region without the sugar, right? So like a margarita without the sugar or a daiquiri without the sugar. The sweetness is not there that they're talking about. I don't get that at all. So I don't even get the vanilla that they're talking about. It's more of a honey sweetness if I had to put my finger on it, and it's so tamped down that sweetness doesn't really enter my vocabulary on that one so much. But it's not a bad drinker. Again, both of those, if you're a dry white wine drinker, those would be kind of up your alley, I would think. Okay, so here we go. Glenlivet Founders Reserve, established 1824, single malt Scotch whiskey, American oak selection. Okay. Let's see what we got in there. Get some of that stuff out of there. I'm trying my best not to mix these because I want to give them each their own individual run here. And I would say so far those first two, nothing, no real body to them. There's no oily clinginess to them. It's a dryness that clings to your tongue. No real sweetness to them. They're really watery thin as far as mouthfeel goes. What is that? So this one's more vanilla, sweet, like sweet caramel sweet. Vanilla, there's a fruit in there that I can't quite put my finger on, like a creme brulee kind of a sweet. Some kind of a creamy sweet for sure. And then some maltiness. Like if you opened a container of malted milk that you're going to make a milkshake with, there's that kind of a malt smell in there. It's one note in the nose, really. Like as I'm trying to tease it apart, it's not really changing, and I can't really get the depth out of it. It's no matter what I do to it, it's the same note, and I just don't quite have the vocabulary to describe what it is. But it's sweet. Very sweet. It's some kind of a candy sweet. Okay, so far that's my favorite one. It's sweet and mouthfeel dry. So it's the dryness that the first two had with a little bit of sugar sweetness running in the background. Not a lot. It's not overpowering. It's not dominating, but there's a little bit of sweetness in it. It's got a little bit more of an oily, creamy mouthfeel to it than the other two. You can get a little bit of a vanilla up front. Nose hasn't changed at all. But it's this sweetness that starts, and then it kind of goes into a sour, almost bitter, dry note on the finish, hint of black pepper spice. Just a hint. But a real light vanilla that kind of persists through it. What they say, citrus. I don't get any citrus. Sweet orange and creamy toffee flavors. Okay, the toffee I can agree with. The orange, there's no orange in this for me at all. I mean, not at all. Nothing I would pick out. Neither in the flavor nor in the nose do I get any semblance of an orange. Although, what they might be referring to with that orange is kind of that acidy dryness on the back end of the palate, like right on the finish. I guess again, now having read it, and my brain's trying to tell me orange. I could see it. I guess I can see it now. You know, I'm taking my words back here. I can see it, but without having heard that, that would not have been the reference point I would have gone for. But in the glass, nice malt and malty sweetness. Okay, final one. Here we go. Glenlivet Caribbean Reserve. What do we got here? Single malt, selectively finished in barrels that held Caribbean rum. So the finishing barrel on these is a rum cask, former rum cask. So let's see here. Probably need to paint that down a little bit. Yeah, it's almost 20 minutes here, but you know, it's a good head-to-head comparison on all these. Give you a really good idea of what the Glenlivet distillery is putting out and the type of notes you can find there. Now, even way out here, I'm getting I'm getting that maltiness out of this thing. Get your nose in there. It's malt. I can smell the rum in there. Totally can get the rum. Candy sweet on the nose. A little bit of floral. I can get like almost like a bourbon apple in there. And this one, I would say I can get a little bit of the tropical fruit out of it. Sweet forward, sweet middle, sweet finish. There is a dryness, the same as all the other ones, that starts in the beginning and carries all the way through, and it's a dry mouthfeel on the sides of your tongue, like a high acidity type dryness, dry mouthfeel. But there's a sweetness that just carries through start to finish. It's a flavor sweetness, not a sugary sweetness. Got a nice oily, slight oily mouthfeel. It's kind of a creamy richness that's in there. The nose didn't change, still malty, sweet, rum. Sweet forward goes into a fruity middle palate with a hint of vanilla in there. And then just kind of finishes with a little bit of tannin, a little bit of bitter tannin, oak tannin bitterness to it, and a dry mouthfeel. So I would say the Caribbean flavor, or sorry, Caribbean Cask and the Founders Reserve, Caribbean Reserve, definitely the two favorites out of this group. What they say here is sweet pear, vanilla, rich caramel toffee, notes with tropical fruit flavors. I would agree with all of that. The thing that I have to say when you start reading descriptors by producers and stuff with any variety of whiskey, doesn't matter what it is they take a note and then they fluff it, right? So they try and like, if it's sweet, it's not just sweet, it's creamy sugar sweet or whatever. And I do that as well. And I think that it does really help hammer home what the note is if you really tease it out a little bit more and try and find that reference point in your brain. You know, if you go, okay, that's sweet, sugary sweet, candy sweet, what kind of candy have I had throughout my life? Can I picture what that tastes like in my mind? Do I remember what it smells like? Do I remember what it tastes like? That's why you see these fluffy pieces being written about each of any whiskey, right? So any of the whiskey descriptors, most people are like, I don't understand, I don't get any of that, whatever. And I've said that before. Um, but I really have to say that if you work at pushing yourself to dig a little deeper, if you say it's sweet, what kind of sweet? If you say that it's dry, what kind of a dry? If you say that it's apple, what kind of an apple? Is it a Macintosh? Is it a Granny Smith? Like, there's variance to any type of flavor or taste or smell that you have, and it's individual. So this is one of the key things, is that everybody's reference point for a particular smell or taste is different, and the the experience that that person's brain is going back to, that they've cataloged, is different. So setting has a lot to do with how you perceive your senses at the time, right? So if you're in, I don't know, if you're in the middle of a war and you pick up an apple, it might be the best apple you've ever had because you haven't eaten for 4 days. Or it might be the worst, you know, it might just be bland because you got bullets whizzing past you and you're in the middle of combat or something. What I'm trying to get at is that, like, circumstance and experience drive the memory of what it is that you taste and smell. Your perception of your senses at a particular time. So keep that in mind. Dig deeper in your flavor. See what you think. So this has been a review of the Glenlivet distillery. Not in total, obviously. They definitely have a lot more than just these four. I think they have somewhere around 30 different varieties. Glenlivet is used in several different blends as well. So this was the 14 year that's in 14 in Cognac cask, the 12 in it's double oaked in European and American oak. The Founder's Reserve, which is finished in American oak, and then the Caribbean Reserve, which is finished in rum barrels. Check them out, see what you think. Drop in the comments down below if you've had these or if you're a fan of these at all. Let me know what you can find a bottle of any of these for in your area, or what you can find this variety pack for in your area. If you have any other comments, please let me know. I know this video was a little bit long, but hopefully you enjoyed it and it's of value to you. Check me out on, Life and Whiskey. Check out the Life and Whiskey channel out on bitchute.com. It's an alternative to YouTube. Also on minds.com at life_and_whiskey. Links to those sites are down below to my pages at those sites. Yeah, just let me know what you think. I appreciate you, and thanks for watching. If you're getting anything out of this, please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Drop a comment down below. Let me know what you're thinking. And as always, we'll catch you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Have yourselves a great day.